Hi, how's it going? Welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and this video is a review of X. It is a horror thriller and was directed by Ty West and was released in the USA on March 18th, 2022. Basically, the movie follows a group of actors that rent a farm to make an adult film. Unfortunately for them, their hosts aren't the most welcoming. Now, before I hop into my review, if you want to support the channel, please take a second to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means a lot to me, so thank you. As a heads up, this review will contain some heavy spoilers, so continue at your own risk. Lastly, if there's something that you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know by leaving a comment and I will get to it. Thank you. We're hopping in 3, 2, 1. The film takes place in 1979 as the VCR pornographic industry booms. Maxine Minks is an aspiring pornographic actress and is dating her producer, Wayne Gilroy. He books a stay on a farm and together they head there with fellow actors Bobby Lynn Parker, Jackson Hole, amateur director RJ Nichols, and his girlfriend Lorraine Day. The farm belongs to Howard and Pearl, who are a peculiar couple to say the least. The plot is very reminiscent of slasher flicks of old like Friday the 13th, so that should give you an idea of where this movie is headed. When it comes to horror movies, we all know that if you have sex, you gon' die. The group breaks this cardinal rule multiple times as they film throughout the day and night. Also, when it comes to horror movies, no good can come from a strange couple on an isolated farm. Pearl is a washed up nobody and is extremely jealous of Maxine and her youth because her husband Howard cannot sexually satisfy her. This prompts a killing spree from a resentful Pearl and unhappy Howard. Needless to say, not everyone survives. Personally, I thought the plot was good, but it wasn't great. It was very predictable and it didn't come off as revolutionary the way a lot of critics hailed it. On the other hand, the themes and tones were interesting. Something that stood out to me is the concept that aging is hard. As much as I wish we could, we can't stop time. Our bodies continue to age whether we want them to or not. I hate getting older because I can't do the things that I used to do. And unfortunately, I am not the only one in my boat. Pearl also hates how old she has become. She hates how old her husband is. She wants to be young but can't. The difference between Pearl and I is that I don't go around killing people I'm jealous of. Everyone is free game. I am just kidding. While this theme of getting older is interesting, it is a weak plot element and story device. To me, Pearl and Howard have poor motivations. While it may have been brief, another theme that I thought was interesting were the religious undertones. At the time, hellfire and brimstone sermons were widely popular and it was cool seeing them play on the radio and TV. Maxine is a perfect example of how extremism from one belief can elicit an opposite belief. At the end of the film, it's revealed that her father is the Christian preacher we've been hearing. It reminded me a lot of Footloose, and it was cool to see. One final theme that I found interesting is that nudity and pornography aren't as empowering as our modern society would like us to believe. I think this is best exemplified by Lorraine. She is initially against the idea of filming smut, as she calls it. After repeatedly being called a prude, she decides to shed her reputation and be in the adult film. Afterwards, she ends up feeling regret, remorse, and exploited. Despite her actions being her own, she blames Maxine for everything. This hint of hypocrisy is also mirrored by Pearl when she calls Bobby Lynn a whore before killing her. Intriguing stuff, at least to me. When it comes to the acting, I thought everybody did a good job, but nobody stood out to me. However, I do have to give Mia Goth kudos for playing both Maxine and Pearl. I think it's fun seeing actors play multiple roles in a movie. I am also a Jenna Ortega stan, so it was nice seeing her in the film. She's come a long way from Jane the Virgin. Also, it's always fun seeing Brittany Snow on screen. As in many of her movies, she brings a positive, chaotic energy to the film. I also have to mention that I'm not normally a fan of artists acting in movies because they don't normally do a good job, but Kid Cudi was great. Lastly, Martin Henderson, Owen Campbell, and Stephen Ury were respectively good as Wayne, RJ, and Howard. Now, I know I mentioned it earlier, but this film was very predictable. It also felt a little bit longer than it needed to be. It ran for an hour and 45 minutes, which is good, but the pacing needed improvement to keep things from being stagnant. Being a film about making an adult film, I was expecting to see a moderate amount of nudity, but it ended up feeling excessive to me. The sex scenes drag on, and there are a lot of them. I'm normally in favor of adult themes in movies because they make things seem more realistic, but I only like them when they're done tastefully. Like blood and gore, if its only purpose is to be shown, then it's not really an asset and more of a distraction. That's all all my take, but ultimately art is in the eye of the beholder. As I think about the score, soundtrack, dialogue, cinematography, and production design, nothing stands out, which is not a bad thing. It just means that there wasn't anything great or amazing. I thought the score was good and it helped enhance the tone of the film and the actions the characters took. The dialogue was okay and unimpressive. It got the job done and conveyed what it needed to convey. There weren't any creative camera shots, but there were a few pretty ones. The production design was simple, but the farm felt authentic. I can't help but feel that a bigger budget would have made this film a lot better. Overall, I found X to be an enjoyable film, but it certainly didn't deserve all of the praise the critics gave it. That said, there are definitely moments that can be appreciated. To summarize my thoughts, the story is simple and cliche and reminds me of films like Friday the 13th. I don't know if I like the themes in this film, but they were certainly interesting: aging, religion, and false empowerment. On a positive note, the acting was good and I appreciated the cast. On a more negative note, the film could have used a bigger budget to improve the score, soundtrack, dialogue, cinematography, and production design. They were mostly okay and good at best. This may be a bit of a hot take, but X felt like a Netflix movie. It's fun and enjoyable, but not great. I rated this movie a 6.1 out of 10. X wasn't my favorite horror film, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a die-hard A24 fan. Or I guess if you like horror movies, then you might as well watch this one. Thank you for listening to my review of X. If you enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, leave a like and hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the content, I'd like to thank you for sticking around. If you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. Also, if you want me to review something, don't forget to let me know and I'll get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Friends with Benefits. My name is Diego, and I'll see you next time.